The NFL draft is tomorrow, believe it or not. It's come up really quickly on us. Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. We're doing an Eagles mock draft. So we did a big first-round mock draft the other day, but now we're going to do the Eagles.
It's all birds now. It's all about the Eagles. We're going to do a 7-round mock draft here, guys. So whether you're listening to us on Burton TD podcast today or you're joining us here on the Bitterbird YouTube channel, I'm going to make sure that we do a good job of narrating, guys, each pick, what options are on the table, and then ultimately Adrian's going to pull the trigger. I'm going to make my recommendations, but we're going to walk through this, guys, and talk about, okay, if we don't do this, here's what could happen, here's repercussions. But the most important thing I want you guys to realize about this is there are millions of variables. So there's no right or wrong answers, just all varying degrees of wrong in the end of the day.
Well, you're being kind, Brendan. A lot of degrees of wrong. Well, now that I'm going to be pulling the trigger, there's going to be a lot of wrong, and I might suck like Jared Dudley.
Well, did you notice there's a reason I let you pull the trigger, right? So I can just be like, well, Adrian, listen to me. I'm just completely deferring responsibility. So I am always right. You're always wrong. That's kind of like being the backup quarterback. You're always like the most popular guy in the city.
Yeah. And clearly you're the one that should be pulling the trigger and not me, but you know.
Here we are.
All right, so let's do this. Let's do this draft.
All right, guys, so here's what we're doing. We're going to use a website that I mess around with. It's called First Pick. There's a whole bunch of different draft simulators here. I like First Pick for the reason that it allows you to see what's coming and what future players are going to be available. So we're going to do this. We're going to be the Eagles. As we can see here, let's take a look at our picks, Adrian. We got a first. We have 2 seconds. We have 2 fourths, a fifth, and a sixth.
Yeah.
Right. So, Adrian, let's start off here. What do you envision are the biggest needs for the Eagles going into the draft?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, there really aren't a lot of needs. It's more needs for the future more than anything. You look at tackle, for example. Jason Peters is going to be retiring pretty soon. You don't know what you have in Jordan Mailata. I know there's a lot of potential there, but you want to get somebody else in here to get behind Jason Peters. So I think tackle is one. I think safety is another. Rodney McLeod. Who knows if he's even going to be back next year? Pretty much a 1-year deal. So safety, tackle. Basically, they're going to be taking best player available in a lot of these spots because they don't really have a lot of needs necessarily.
Well, when you win the Super Bowl 2 years ago, it usually means you had a good team to do it. Yeah. So in my kind of just mock-up, I just did this real quick. I think no particular order. Eagles needs is just offensive line, future. That's what I'll call it for a couple positions. Safety, linebacker, defensive line, and running back. Anything else, like if you get a receiver, if you get a corner, best player available, that's fine. But I think, Adrian, this is what the Eagles should prioritize a little bit higher. But obviously, if there's a corner staring you in the face, not a bad idea to take it if he's really, really talented.
Yeah. Sure, running back, linebacker, but those are needs that I think they might attack in the middle of the draft, not early on, especially linebacker.
I would echo that. I think those are more desires. They're not necessarily requirements, right? Just like we talk about Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert at tight end was great. I mean, look, he had a really good year. I'm not trying to, poo-poo the pick, but that wasn't a need for the Eagles. That was a desire and a luxury. So the Eagles could do that with a couple other positions. But let's go ahead and start this, Adrian. So we're going to be the Eagles here. And let's go right ahead, and we're going to skip in the simulator right to our pick at 25.
Okay. All right. So let's see who these idiots picked.
So
we got a trade request. We got a couple trade requests.
And let's do this. Let's do one, Adrian, with no trade request, just so we can kind of play out a scenario. So according to First Pick, the biggest needs for the Eagles are running back, defensive tackle, and corner. I might feel differently. Our viewers might feel differently. You might feel differently. So let's start here, Adrian. Let's just go best value and take a peek at some of the guys that we see here are available. Now, one bummer, and this was the guy that I was really excited about. Jeffrey Simmons went 24th right before the Eagles.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So some guys here that get me excited. I'm just going to read my excitement guys off, and then, Adrian, I want to hear who you like. I like A.J. Brown a lot. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, free safety from Florida, gets me really excited as well. Cody Ford, offensive lineman from Oklahoma, gets me pretty excited here. Some other guys that get me kind of excited, obviously Josh Jacobs from Alabama. It's hard not to be excited about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a need right here, but I do like Rocky Sin a lot from Temple as well.
Just to shout out Temple, of course.
Just you got to throw up the guy who's only a couple miles on North Broad there a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, if I'm looking at this, Adrian, I'm going to tell you the guy I like after you tell me who on this list right now gets you excited.
Yeah, if the draft plays itself like this, I think the Eagles would go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But if it were me, I would go Cody Ford, tackle at Oklahoma. So you look at this mammoth man and how the Eagles like to play football with all the pulling linemen and all the athleticism, get him on the boundary. That's what Cody Ford is all about. So I think he's the pick here. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would be great. I'd love him. But if Cody Ford slides, this is the pick right here.
I echo everything you said there, Adrian. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is the silver medal. The player that I would recommend taking is Cody Ford, and I'd recommend taking him, and he's probably going to play guard his first year, and then eventually he'll move over to tackle. So, Adrian, is that who you want to go with here is Cody Ford?
Yeah. And the other thing is you can plug him at guard while Brandon Brooks gets healthy.
Bingo.
So there's your guy. It's Cody Ford. He's not going to fall, though, to 25, is he?
Nope, I don't believe so because the Vikings are there before them. You have several other needy offensive line teams. But anyway, in this scenario, Cody Ford's there. Boom, pull the trigger. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. And look at that. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson just went. Oh, wow. This is unrealistic.
Unrealistic, but you know what? Here's the great thing about this. Everyone has different boards, so it gives you all different hypotheticals. So now we're sitting here as the Eagles. We're sitting here with our first of 2 second-round picks, second round, 21 overall. Let me kind of rattle off, Adrian, the guys that would get me excited here. Chase Winovich is a guy I really like, defensive end out of Michigan. Darnell Savage, another guy that would get me excited here at the free safety position. Looking at some other guys that kind of jump out to me. LJ Collar, another defensive end, defensive tackle prospect there from TCU, gets me excited. Taylor Rapp from Washington. He's a guy that I'm a big fan of, Adrian, here at that free safety position that can move around a little bit. And I also like Zach Allen a lot, defensive end or could play defensive tackle for Boston College. So those are the kind of names that stand out to me, Adrian. Who stands out to you that's available right now?
Yeah, the pick here, it looks like it's going to be Darnell Savage, the safety out of Maryland. That's probably where I'd go here. Now, it's a shame that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Nasir Adderley went right before us. Now, defensive tackle, is there any of those guys left? I guess they all went.
Well, let's take a peek here. So one of the nice things that First Pick does, it allows you to view other guys. So we can take a peek here of defensive tackles that are still available in this simulator.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Adrian, it looks like the defensive tackle guys all went.
So in our mock, it's a deep D-line class, but all the D tackles are already gone by the second round.
Really, the guys that at least me and Adrian like, we should say. I mean, there are a lot of people here who like Kellen Saunders from Western Illinois, and also here Reynold Wren, defensive tackle from Arizona State. Both of those guys, I think, are realistic second-round picks. Mm-hmm. But I kind of echo with what you said, Adrian. I don't love any of those guys. I would say the safety position in this scenario is more a way to look at it. To me, it becomes down to two options. If you want to go with a guy who is a little more athletic, then Darnell Savage is the guy. If you are a believer in film is more important than what the testing numbers are, then Taylor Rapp is the option here. I don't think you can go wrong with this, Adrian. So those would be the two options I would have. But again, you're pulling the trigger. Who do you want to pull the trigger on here?
Yeah. I'm going to go with Savage, the safety from Maryland. That's where I'm at.
The only other guy I'm gonna throw up. Wait, one stop second. I got one more guy I didn't mention that I want to at least address. I didn't bring up the fact that Mack Wilson from Alabama is on the board, and I bring this up here because, in my opinion, I know Adrian, you echo this too.
Yeah.
Once you get past Mack Wilson, he's the third linebacker in this class. Once you get past Mack Wilson, it's a free fall. It's a free fall at linebacker. So I would echo everything you said there about Savage, Adrian, but because Mack Wilson's available, And because I know it's a nosedive after Mack Wilson at linebacker, I would actually reverse course. I've decided to pull back my card. I've changed my vote. I would pull for Mack Wilson.
Okay. So are you going to pick Mack Wilson or are we going to go Savage?
It's your decision, Adrian. You're the GM.
Yeah, I'm going to go Savage because
Okay.
linebacker is just not as imperative as other positions for the Eagles. I know Mack Wilson's there. Maybe he'll be there in a couple picks because we're about to pick again pretty soon.
That's right. That's the nice thing about the Eagles there at 25. See, to me, my train of thought, and I get where you're coming from, Adrian, my train of thought would have been because I'm splitting hairs between Rapp and Savage,
Yeah.
then I would have picked Wilson because I would have felt more confident one of the two of them would have been at 25. But here we are at 25.
Well, he's still there.
And it worked out. Mack Wilson is still here. So is the only guys that we saw go was a tight end, Julian Love, the corner from Notre Dame, and a quarterback and Daniel Jones, who's definitely not going to be there this late. But I digress. Adrian, who would you go in this scenario now? We still have all the guys still on the board from 21 that we talked about really here at 25 in the second round.
Yeah, just go take Mack Wilson because there's no other good linebackers. So just go get him, and there you go. Just stockpile.
Okay. So now we have gone through the first day and the second day. We're getting ready to go into day 3, and let's kind of recap what we have as the Eagles. So we have Cody Ford here as our plug-and-play guard, eventual potential tackle. We have Darnell Savage as our future safety opposite of Malcolm, and then we have Mack Wilson coming in as an inside backer. So we haven't addressed D-line and running back are the two positions that Adrian said we want addressed for the Eagles. So now we're here with the first of our 2 fourth-round picks, 4th round, 25th overall. Mm-hmm. Let's take a pick, Adrian, at who's available. Real bummer. Guy I would have loved, 4th round, 24th pick, Andy Isabella. Just went right before the Eagles. Man, that would have been a really juicy option there if it was me.
Yeah. To put a guy in the slot after Nelson Aguilar leaves. All right, so we're looking at this board here. And, man, This is tough. Your pick right here might be Justice Hill, the running back out of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, so here we are in the 4th round. Again, in my opinion, some of the guys that are here aren't going to be here. But again, that's the great thing about the NFL draft. Not only will you have 32 different opinions, you'll have 32 different opinions inside each individual room. Okay? Yeah. So, there's no one true big board that everyone agrees with. So, in this hypothetical scenario, let me kind of highlight for you folks who are listening to us on Burt and TD's podcast, who gets me excited here if I'm the Eagles. I still talked about running back and defensive line. So those are the two positions in my mind that I'm thinking about. David Montgomery's here from Iowa State. That's very unlikely, but hey, that's great for us here. Other running backs that get me excited here, Adrian mentioned them. Justice Hill, running back from Oklahoma State. Great, really explosive guy.
Oh, Miles Sanders is there. Never mind.
Miles Sanders is
there's the pick.
Yep, I'm with you. No brainer. Miles Sanders being here. Yeah. Miles Sanders.
How did I not see that on first glance?
Because you know what, Adrian? You and me are looking at this with realistic eyes. Because we don't see any way that Miles Sanders is there in the 4th round.
This mock is never going to happen. This is so realistic right now.
It's not. And if this were to happen with the second of the 2 4th-round picks, the Eagles would select Chuck Norris, right? Because it's that unrealistic of what's going to happen here. I think a more realistic, Adrian, a more realistic situation is the Eagles would have taken Miles Sanders there. Or excuse me, not Miles Sanders, Justice Hill from Oklahoma State as that running back there. But, hey, Miles Sanders on the board, yeah, we're sprinting to the podium to hand that one in.
Yeah, the reason why I was thinking Justice Hill, the pass catcher out of the backfield, Benny Snell, David Montgomery, more inside bruisers, and you just traded for Jordan Howard. So that's the logic behind Hill.
I understand all of that. I feel a little bit higher on David Montgomery as a pass catching guy, but I don't disagree with you. Justice Hill is more explosive of the two. So either way, we got Miles Sanders, and our Christmas came very, very early for us Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. So now we're sitting here in the 4th round, 36th pick. So far, guys, to recap, we've gotten our offensive lineman, we've gotten a safety, we've gotten a linebacker, we've gotten a running back. So maybe we think defensive line. So, Adrian, as you kind of ponder the screen, let me highlight the guys that I get excited about. Yeah. So guys that I would get excited about in this scenario here. Austin Bryant, kind of the unsung hero, so to speak, out of Clemson, another defensive end rotation guy. Let's keep looking here. Defensive line, Dalon Mack, defensive tackle out of A&M. That could be another option for us as well. If we wanted to address another linebacker position, we could go Drew Taquan, outside linebacker from Notre Dame. And that's kind of the high stuff, Adrian, that I'm looking at here. Not a ton of things that truthfully get me overly excited. The only other thing that is possible on day 3 is quarterback.
Mm.
So in this scenario, Will Greer here is from West Virginia. Adrian, in your mind, do you think the Eagles consider a quarterback in day 3?
I think they consider quarterback like 5th, 6th, 7th round, maybe not 4th. I think 4th's a little bit too high. Even though Will Greer, a little bit tantalizing there, him sitting on the board. I think the pick here would either be Mack or Bryant, the kid from Clemson. So I think they would go Bryant. I don't know what's happening with Chris Long. He can't make up his decision whether or not he wants to come back or retire. So maybe you bring Austin Bryant in here just to put some more DNs in the room.
Yeah, and I think, Adrian, you're spot on with that train of thought. Is what's our bigger issue, D tackle or D end? Man, I could go either way, truthfully, on this.
Yeah, same. Mm-hmm.
I think I might say D tackle is more of an issue.
Who do you think the better player is? Austin Bryant or Dalon Mack?
I would go Dalon Mack. I think he is the better option of the two, and I think there's a little more of a need here. But truthfully, this would not be a situation if I was in the room that I would choose to be overly aggressive, because my mindset is I'm going to pick my points where I'm aggressive. And if I'm not 1,000% confident in one of these guys, I'm going to hold my statement until later.
Yeah. This is tough. I feel like with D tackle, I want a D tackle early. And once you get them later, let's just go with Austin Bryant. There you go.
All right, we're going Austin Bryant, defensive end out of Clemson, as our next pick. So now we go into round 5 here. So now we have the fifth round, and we're pick number 25. And we've got offensive line help. We've gone free safety. We've gone linebacker. We've gone running back. We've gone defensive end. So now we're starting getting into more of the luxury pick situation. It's kind of how I think about it here. So let me kind of highlight for you as Adrian takes a peek at who gets him excited. I have a couple options here. Adrian talked about quarterback. So if we want to go quarterback, Clayton Thorson out of Northwestern, he's a guy that I would get excited about. Truthfully, I think it's realistic. He's here on day 3. He probably would have been a guy to go maybe 3rd round if he wasn't for the fact that he got hurt out of Northwestern. DeMarcus Lodge is another guy that gets me excited, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. When you're at Ole Miss and you're the 3rd receiver, there's just a lot of mouths to feed. So, his upside, I think, is higher than people give him credit for because he's playing with such a loaded team around him.
Yeah.
So he's someone that gets me excited. Penny Hart is another option I would think about, Adrian. If you like Andy Isabella, you're probably also going to like Penny Hart. I think he does very similar things, just maybe isn't necessarily as super explosive here. Those would be the big guys. Or in this situation, Adrian, it's not realistic in my opinion, but Jarrett Stidham is still sitting here as the quarterback from Auburn. I don't think it's realistic. To me, Adrian, if you ask me my opinion, I'm going for DeMarcus Lodge here. I think that would be a really nice pick to get another receiver. And I think it's pretty well known. The Eagles are not exactly in love with the idea of Nelson Aguilar long-term. Not only do they trade for Golden Tate, it's also important to remember they try to trade for Robbie Anderson. So they're very much open to the idea of another receiver opposite of Alshon. So to me, Adrian, DeMarcus Lodge would be my pick here in the 5th round.
Penny Hart is interesting because of his quickness, and he's a guy that could also return punts. And the Eagles are a team that basically since Darren Sproles had his injury, they've been struggling with the punt returns.
Yeah,
and I don't know if Penny Hart's going to be good enough for that role, but I just know that he's capable of doing it. So I don't think this is as easy of a decision between Lodge and Hart. I think Lodge is probably the better wide receiver. But in this scenario, Penny Hart might be somebody the Eagles actually draft because of his slot skills and his quickness and his punt return ability. But I'm going to go DeMarcus Lodge here because he's the better player.
I agree with that, Adrian. I think DeMarcus Lodge is definitely the better of the two players, while Penny Hart maybe is more of the fit. I
Yes,
think DeMarcus Lodge is the better player. So my mindset is let's not get too cute here. Let's get the best player available.
exactly. Yeah. So there you
All
go.
right, so now we're in the final pick here for the Philadelphia Eagles. 6th round, 24th overall. Quick recap. We've got an offensive line and Cody Ford, Darnell Savage, free safety from Maryland, Mac Wilson as our inside linebacker from Bama, Miles Sanders, and Christmas came very, very, very early for all Eagles fans, was there in the 4th round as the running back of the future. Austin Bryant, defensive end out of Clemson, was our second of the 4th picks, and our most latest pick was our 5th round, DeMarcus Lodge, receiver here out of Ole Miss. So, Adrian, we're in our final pick here.
Yeah.
Again, I think we're starting to get into luxury territory. So let me kind of highlight, what else I get maybe consider here. Albert Huggins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. Again, kind of similar to we talked about DeMarcus Lodge. Just a lot of mouths to feed there in that Clemson defensive line. So you quickly fall out of rotation there. Ed Alexander, a defensive tackle out of LSU, if we're thinking about still looking interior D-line here. Got a slew of corners. If we want to go slot receiver, how about Hunter Renfrow? He's a guy who's still on the board here for us. That could be a slot guy. If you're thinking maybe upside receivers, Killen Doss from UC Davis, or the big upside guy, in my opinion, of this draft is Preston Williams. I think Preston Williams, wide receiver out of Colorado State, realistically has the talent to be a second round, maybe even a early day 3 or early 3rd round pick, but just has a whole bunch of off the field concerns and issues there. And then after that, Adrian, it kind of a pick your poison with, some other slot guy or some other receivers, some other corners. Certainly we don't need a running back this late because we already have Miles Sanders at this point in time. Adrian, are there any names here that kind of get you excited one way or another?
There is a player that's popping out. Now, I don't know if they would draft him here because we've taken Lodge and Sanders already. But Jalen Hurd out of Baylor, I know they visited with him, and he's a guy that used to play running back at Tennessee. So you look at Doug Peterson and the way he likes to use his wideouts / running backs. I mean, Jalen Hurd's a guy that can line up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can line up out wide. But there's a reason why he's also projected to go this late. So that's the name that pops out, but we don't really need to address that. So you just kind of go best player available here. Maybe you want to take a guard. Maybe you want to take a tackle. Maybe you want to take a safety or not a safety, a D tackle. So whatever you want to do, maybe cornerback. Yeah, that's probably what we'll do here. Maybe you want to go get a cornerback here.
Okay.
Who would you take? I know I'm the one pulling the trigger, but I'm asking for your advice.
If we're going corner, right, if you have told me, hey, we're going corner in this pick, what do you want to do? Probably would go with Hamp Shivas, corner out of Boston College here. Quietly, Boston College had a really, really good defense this year. I think this would be the guy I would pick, Adrian, but to be truthful, when you get to the 6th round, you're pretty much just picking guys and hoping, hey, can they help us on special teams? Can they practice squad guys? So to me, 3rd round, the day 3, this is a great time to get those guys who have the speed because they can be coverage guys on kickoff and punt and things like that. So I think corners makes a lot of sense. So I'd probably go with Hamp here from Boston College, Adrian.
All right, there you go. We'll go there. That's where we'll go. So there was our draft, and we probably got an A+ because we got a lot of good players.
Yeah. Let's kind of do a recap here. I'm going to give a recap, and then Adrian, I want to give your opinions on your favorite picks and least favorite picks if this were to happen.
Yeah.
So what happened here? 1st round, Eagles, we went with Cody Ford, offensive lineman from Oklahoma. 2nd round, we got Darnell Savage, free safety out of Maryland. Second of second round, Mac Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. 4th round, Miles Sanders, completely unrealistic, but hey, we took him because he was there. 2nd of the 4th round, we got Austin Bryant, defensive end out of Clemson with that comp pick. Then the 5th round, Eagles, we took DeMarcus Lodge, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. And then our final pick of the draft, we went Hamp Shivas, cornerback out of Boston College.
So there you go. I'd say my favorite pick is Miles Sanders because you're not going to get him in the 4th round. I think Cody Ford would be a great pick, but I don't know. I don't know if that's realistic either, and we'll see about that. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would be very realistic.
Yeah.
Mac Wilson, we'll see if he's available there at that spot. We killed this draft. I mean, this is an A+. Every pick got an A+, pretty much.
Yeah. In my opinion, Adrian, this is 1,000% a dream scenario. Everything went perfect for the Philadelphia Eagles. You walk away with starters all across the board and guys that can compete in rotation on day 3, which is really what you want. You know, with your day 3 picks, this is a dream scenario, Adrian. I think, you know what, if this were to happen, I also could say I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see the Eagles start at least entertaining incoming phone calls for trading Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah. So the interesting part about this draft is the fact that we didn't take a D lineman early. That's the only thing. Because I've been assuming this whole time that they're going to take one within the first 2 rounds, and then in this mock scenario, we didn't do it.
We didn't do it, folks, but the reason we didn't do it is because Adrian and I both said the same thing. We believe that offensive line is very, very important for the longevity of Carson Wentz's career, obviously. But we also believe that there's not a lot of depth in the offensive line once you get past the first round. So when Cody Ford was sitting there, it became a no-brainer in my mind, honestly, Adrian.
Yeah, and the fact that he can play guard too and take those starts from Brandon Brooks while he gets healthy, it is a no-brainer. Unfortunately, most likely, he's not going to be there.
Absolutely. But again, the important thing that you guys need to take away from this is there are millions of variables. You know, me and Adrian don't think so, but hey, he might be. I don't think it's likely Miles Sanders is there in the 4th.
Yeah.
Sure, it's possible. Just like it could snow in South Beach, Miami. It's not likely, but it could happen, I guess.
There you go. All right. Well, we did plug your podcast somewhat because you talked about it in the beginning unprompted. So there you go. Now you can talk about it again if you'd like.
Yeah, guys, like I said, if you really enjoyed listening to me with this draft stuff, please come check out my podcast. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify. We have our own website. Again, it's at Burton TD Podcast. Please check us out, guys. Got a whole bunch of good guests, guys like Tyree St. Louis, offensive line prospect from the University of Miami. Several guys from Bleacher Report's Stick to Football crew, which is, you know, their equivalent to Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. So would really appreciate it if you guys had the opportunity to check out my podcast as well.
Yeah, definitely do it. So there it is. Our draft stuff is complete. Now, I guess the next thing we'll do is do some film rooms on the players.
Yeah, got to do the recap when we're done, Adrian.
Yeah. So this was a lot of fun. The pre-draft process, went through all the top 5 rankings. We did our mock drafts. We are now done. Now the draft is tomorrow, and we'll see how all this finally plays itself out.
Can't wait. Thanks, guys, for listening.
There it is. That's Brendan Albert. I'm Adrian Fecchio. Peace.